Coffee with the Pastor. I'm Pastor John Woodin, and this is a ministry of Hollywood Faith Christian Center in Hollywood, Florida, which is located on the Gold Coast of Florida, just south of Fort Lauderdale and north of Miami. Well, for the next three programs, we're going to be speaking about Israel. I know that it is a hot-button issue right now, but there's a lot of misconceptions, and I think that a lot of Christians don't know what their position should be on Israel. Well, I'm going to hopefully help you understand that. In Joshua 22, it says this, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to keep his commandments, to hold fast to him, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. Here's Joshua speaking this, and in other words, I need to love what God loves. You cannot be a Christian and hate the things that God loves. It's not possible. So if there's anti-Semitism in your heart and you hate the Jews and you hate the Jewish people and you hate Israel, you can't be a Christian because God loves Israel. In Proverbs 3:5, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding or CNN's or MSNBC. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. It will be health to your flesh and strength to your bones. And to honor the Lord with all your possessions. You know, God gives instructions to Abraham when he tells him to leave his father's house, get out of your country and from your family and from your father's house to a land that I will show you, and I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. For I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. This is Genesis 12:3. And in all the families of the earth you shall be blessed. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. You say, well, he's talking about Abraham. No, he's talking about the covenantal blessing that comes through Abraham to the Jewish people. Since 1948, when Israel became a nation, no nation has been as blessed as the United States has been since we backed Israel's bid to become a nation. Now remember, the UN creates the state of Israel, actually creates Lebanon, creates Israel, and Jordan were all part of this UN mandate, and that Israel was going to have a Jewish homeland for the Jews who were now homeless in many cases because of the Holocaust in Europe. 6 million Jews were executed for no other reason than they were Jewish. Not that they committed crimes, not that they did anything, that Hitler and the Nazis executed 6 million people, babies, women, and stole from them countless treasures. And when the war was over and the camps were liberated, they had nothing to return to. And there were literally millions of refugees in Europe. So they created a Jewish homeland. Now, even though FDR had long appointed Jews to office, including Henry Morgenthau, who was a friend of his, was the Treasury Secretary who was Jewish, there were people that, and Roosevelt knew that the U.S. government knew that the camps were going on in Europe and that the death camps were active. Finally, Roosevelt had to take action when Henry Morgenthau, his friend, came to him and said, you must do something. You can't just ignore this. But I don't believe, now it's interesting because the 8 years prior, you know that Franklin Roosevelt was elected to 4 terms as president, the only president who was elected for more than 2 terms. And Roosevelt had, for the last 8 years prior to 1944, had a man by the name of Henry Wallace was the vice president. Well, Wallace had started acting out a little bit and doing some things that Roosevelt didn't like. So he removed him from the ticket, which is a blessing because Wallace was nearly a socialist and probably would not have supported Israel. He removes Wallace and puts in Harry Truman, who was a fairly obscure senator from Missouri, and puts Harry Truman in as his vice president in 1944. Prior to Roosevelt's death in April of 1945, Harry Truman had only spoken to Roosevelt 2 times. One, when he was offered the position of vice president, and 2, one other time, but he knew nothing of what was going on with the war effort or anything else that was happening in Europe and in Japan, of course, at that time. Truman's Secretary of State, and this is 1948 now, Truman's Secretary of State was George C. Marshall, who was the Secretary of State and also had been a commanding general in World War II, was adamantly opposed to recognizing Israel. Truman had had a Jewish business partner back in Independence, Missouri, and was said to have been moved by the photos of the liberation of Hitler's death camps, and he supported the idea of a Jewish homeland. And actually, George Marshall threatened to resign if he recognized Israel, and Truman convinced him that we were going to do that, and within 6 minutes after Israel was announced as a nation, we recognized the state of Israel, the United States. And I believe that we have been so blessed by 1948 with the advent of Israel, because we blessed the things that God blesses. Who has heard such things? Who has seen such things? Shall the earth be made to give birth in one day? Or shall a nation be born at once? This is the process of the UN supporting Israel as the birth of in 1948. And also to remember, for Zion's sake I will not hold my peace. For Jerusalem's sake I will not rest until her righteousness goes forth as brightness and her salvation as a lamp that burns. This is the American Jewish Committee's definition of Zionism, and it is a quest for the national self-determination of the Jewish people. And that's how I and tens of thousands of evangelical Christians are Christian Zionists. Well, let me tell you, let me talk about the first big lie. The first big lie is that I am against Zionism, but I like Jews. That's not accurate, because 91% of all Jews are Zionists. They seek a Jewish homeland. You can't, they're not separatable. You can't say I'm against Zionism, but I like Jews. You are an anti-Semite, and you are just picking and choosing little bits and pieces to pull it apart to justify your hatred of the Jewish people. Tomorrow we will look at Abraham and God's covenantal promises, but I want to be really cautious out there. We need to love what God loves and be careful of the world hating the things that God loves, because that is anti-Semitism, and we want to love Israel.